You and someone you love can have the exact same conversation, same room, same words, same moment, and somehow you both walk away remembering it completely differently. And the weirdest part, you both feel certain that your version of what happened is the truth. But here's what psychology tells us. You may both be telling the truth, just not in the way we usually mean it. You're telling the truth as your brain reconstructed it. Because memory is not a recording. It is not a video file your brain pulls up and replays. Your brain reconstructs the memory every single time. Cognitive psychologists Elizabeth Loftus demonstrated this through decades of research on memory and misinformation. Every time you remember something, your brain rebuilds that memory, and the reconstruction is shaped by what you already believe, what you were feeling at that time, what you expected to happen, and even what you need the memory to mean in the moment. So when two people remember the same argument differently, it does not always mean one person is lying. Sometimes it means their brains store different versions of the same event. And this does not stop at memory. The same perceptual system that shapes what you see also shapes what you fear, what you fight about, what you assume about other people, and even the story you tell yourself about who you are. Welcome back to the Psychology Notebook. I am Desiree, and this is lesson 14, the final video in module 2. If you've been here since lesson 10, then you've watched Frank spend 2 weeks tracking something mysterious in the forest. He's measured the tracks, he's built a case, he has a whole corkboard of theories. Well, today, the wildlife report comes in, and Frank finally finds out what was causing tree damage near the beaver settlement. And his reaction tells us everything we need to know about what perception really costs us. Let's get into it. Here's a myth most of us believe. If I just pay close enough attention, I'll see things accurately. It sounds reasonable. We like to think of our attention as a clean, bright flashlight shining on reality. As long as the flashlight is bright enough, we assume we'll see exactly what is there. But attention isn't neutral. Attention is guided by expectation. Your brain doesn't notice everything equally. It notices what it already decided matters. It highlights what fits the story, what feels important, what seems threatening, or what carries emotional weight. Those noticed pieces then become the things you remember. That is why perception is so powerful. It doesn't just shape what you see in the moment, it shapes what you remember later, what you fear, and what you're willing to fight about. And here's the most important part. None of this means you're broken, dramatic, or bad at reality. This isn't a character flaw. This is your brain's operating system. Let's start with arguments. Yesterday, Frank got into an argument with the park ranger. The ranger said very calmly, "The North Trail cameras haven't picked up anything unusual." That was it. Just a plain, factual update. But Frank didn't hear it that way. Frank heard, "You wasted 2 weeks. You were wrong. You made this whole thing up. You're not as good as tracking as you think you are." But did the ranger actually say any of that? No. But did it feel like that to Frank? Absolutely. This is where perception starts creating conflict. Frank didn't mishear the words. He interpreted their meaning. And he interpreted them through the lens of 2 weeks of emotional investment, expectation, frustration, and maybe a little bit of pride. In psychology, we call this perceptual bias and conflict. When we are emotionally primed, whether we feel hurt, defensive, embarrassed, rejected, or overwhelmed, our top-down processing goes into overdrive. The sentence itself might be neutral, but the framework we bring to it is not. For example, someone says, "Okay." One brain hears, "They're fine." Another hears, "They're mad at me." Another hears, "They're dismissing me." Same word, entirely different perceptions. Psychology offers a useful concept here, attribution theory. It's connected to psychologist Fritz Heider. And a key idea within this is the fundamental attribution error. This is our tendency to explain other people's behavior as a reflection of their character while explaining our own behavior as a result of our situation. For example, if someone interrupts you, they're rude. But if you interrupt someone, well, you were just excited and you didn't want to lose your thought. If someone is late, they're inconsiderate. But if you're late, traffic was awful and you tried your best. We often give ourselves context while we give other people character judgments. Then there's confirmation bias. This is the brain's tendency to look for, notice, and remember evidence that supports what it already believes. If you already believe someone doesn't respect you, your brain will collect evidence to prove it, in their tone, their pause, their word choice, or even the fact that they didn't use an exclamation point in a text. Once that process starts, arguments become incredibly difficult to resolve because both people feel like they are responding to reality, but often they are responding to a framework. That is why the solution isn't just to pay more attention. The real question is, what did I walk into this conversation already believing? What meaning did my brain attach before I had all of the information? Sometimes your expectation starts writing the transcript before the other person even finishes speaking. Now let's talk about anxiety. Sit with this thought for a second. Your brain doesn't always make a clean distinction between a threat that is actually happening and a threat it expects to happen. That matters because anxiety isn't just worrying too much. Anxiety fundamentally changes how attention works. In 1994, psychologists Matthews and McLeod described attentional bias. This occurs when anxious individuals detect threatening information faster than neutral information. It's not because danger is always present, but because the brain is actively scanning for it. Think about it. If you have been hurt in a relationship, your brain learns from that experience and adds those patterns to its threat library. Silence might become a warning sign. A short text might feel loaded. A delay in response might feel like rejection. When something neutral happens, your brain processes it through the question, is this the beginning of the thing I'm afraid of? This isn't a weakness. It is your brain trying to protect you. Brains are prediction machines. They use past experiences to anticipate what might happen next. But the problem is that this system can become too sensitive. It doesn't always know when the threat is gone, so it keeps scanning. Every false alarm costs you something. It costs emotional energy, peace, and connection. It can keep your body activated even when nothing dangerous is happening. Anxiety doesn't just distort the facts. It distorts the framework that decides what those facts mean. Frank knows this personally. Every creak in the forest this week sounded like something approaching. Most of the time, it was just the wind. But Frank's perceptual set was primed for something to be out there. So his brain made sure something always seemed to be out there. Your brain doesn't just ask, what is happening? It asks, what does this remind me of? Finally, we get to the wildlife report. It came in this morning, and here's what it said. 2 deer. That was it. 2 deer on a recovery walk. The smaller deer had a slight limp from a healed injury, which is what made the tracks look so strange. Frank wasn't tracking a mysterious creature or a rare forest phenomenon. He was tracking deer. Frank read the report and thought to himself, I had a feeling all along it was probably deer. I was just monitoring the situation. This is the part that should make us pause. Frank isn't necessarily lying. He may genuinely believe that. Why? Because memory is not just stored. It is reconstructed. This is called constructive memory, and it is one of the most important concepts in psychology. Every time you retrieve a memory, your brain rebuilds it. That rebuild is influenced by your current beliefs, emotions, identity, and needs. Frank's current self-image is, I am a competent forest ranger. I was being careful. I was never really fooled. So his memory starts organizing itself around that version of events. This is a human brain problem. Elizabeth Loftus and John Palmer's famous 1974 research on the misinformation effect showed how easily memory can be altered by information introduced after an event. People can witness the same event, be asked slightly different questions, and later remember entirely different details. The memory itself changes. In real life, this means the fight you remember about the dishes might have been about feeling unseen. The version your partner remembers might genuinely not include the part that felt most important to you. You remember the tone, they remember the words. Both of you are arguing from memories that feel complete, but are actually reconstructed. This is why "I never said that" is so complicated. Sometimes it's avoiding accountability, but sometimes their brain simply didn't store the event the way yours did. This also applies to the story you tell about your own life, like who hurt you, why things went wrong, what kind of person you are. Every time you revisit a memory, there's an opportunity for it to be strengthened, reframed, or reorganized. All right, Brainbusters time. I'll give you 2 scenarios with 4 choices each. Take a second, choose your answer, and then we'll walk through it together. Scenario 1, the apology text. Jordan sends a simple text. "Hey, we should probably talk." No context, no emoji, no tone. Sam has been anxious about this friendship for weeks. So Sam immediately reads the message as, "This is bad. Jordan is ending the friendship." But Jordan actually meant, "I miss you. Let's catch up soon." Which concept best explains Sam's interpretation? A, bottom-up processing. B, attentional bias and perceptual set. C, the misinformation effect. Or D, sensory adaptation. The answer is B, attentional bias and perceptual set. The text itself is neutral, but Sam's framework wasn't. Sam had weeks of anxiety running in the background, so his brain processed the message through a threat detection system before conscious interpretation even started. The meaning came from Sam's internal state, not Jordan's words. Scenario 2, Frank's official memory. 3 weeks after the wildlife report, Frank is telling a story to a new ranger. He says, "I suspected deer from the beginning. I was very methodical about the whole thing." But in reality, Frank spent 2 weeks convinced he was tracking something extraordinary. He argued with the data and got defensive. What psychological concept best explains Frank's current memory? A, confirmation bias. B, constructive memory. C, perceptual adaptation. Or D, bottom-up processing. Last one. Don't let Frank's confidence fool you. The answer is B, constructive memory. Frank isn't making things up on purpose. His brain is rebuilding the story to fit his current self-image as a competent forest monitor. The version where he suspected deer all along feels completely real to him. And this is why eyewitness testimony can be unreliable and why couples remember the same fight differently. Great job! And that brings us to the end of Module 2, Biology and Behavior. In this module, we looked at how the brain takes information from the world, organizes it, interprets it, and turns it into the version of reality we experience every day. It is shaped by attention, expectation, emotion, memory, and past experience. If this module helped you understand your brain a little differently, share this lesson with someone who might find it helpful. And make sure you're subscribed because in the next lesson, we're moving into Module 3, Consciousness and the Mind. We're going to break down what psychology says about what consciousness actually is, what happens to your brain when you sleep, and why some of the most important mental processing is happening right now while you're completely unaware of it. And if you want a visual shortcut to mastering these concepts, the full Psychology Flashcard Pack covers over 300 essential terms in a rapid-fire crash course. The link is in the description. And don't forget, there's a lot more to learn at thepsychologynotebook.com. Sign up for our newsletter to get these lessons delivered right to your inbox. I appreciate you learning with me today, and if you have any questions or comments, drop them down below. I read every single one. And according to YouTube, this is the best video for you on your learning journey. Click it and I'll see you over there.